Hello and welcome to Model Kit Stuff, and welcome to part 12 of our build of the Endeavour by Amati. And in this video we're going to be tackling figure 11, so let's have a look and see what it's telling us to do. It says complete the assembly of the deck house as indicated before gluing the glasses in acetate. Paint the pieces with a mahogany colour paint finish. Finish the entire structure applying more layers of transparent clear varnish. So we're going to finish the deck house, which is nice. These are our parts here, which includes the two acetate pieces. And we're going to do this slightly different than how we've been building this up so far, where we've done the assembly and then we've painted. And what we're going to do this time is we're going to paint the parts while they're still waiting to be cut out. That way we can put the acetate in. It means we can paint the inside of the window frames before putting the acetate in. We can then cut them out, put the acetate in, glue them in place, and then touch up on the edges where we've not been able to get in with the paint. So that's the plan. Now it also means if we look ahead in the instructions, step or figure 12, figure 13, and figure 14 and 15 are all dealing with wooden parts that get assembled. So while we're painting these, we might as well paint all the other parts as well and get ahead on the instructions. So let's do that. So continuing with the same paint that we've used for the rest of the deck house, we need to paint, we can paint all of these actually in situ. So it's a different way of doing it. You can do that from the start if you want. In the same way as we sanded everything at the same time, you could paint everything at the same time, but there wasn't really a need until this point. So my paint needs a little bit of thinning, and I'm just going to thin it with some water. The good thing about painting wooden parts is the wood absorbs the moisture from the paint, and so it becomes touch dry quite quickly. But we need our paint to run down the side a little bit at least, which it doesn't want to do right now. There we go, that's better. You can see how that trickles down now. So that's probably good enough for what we're doing here. So the best thing to do is to paint both sides, so we're doubly sure we've covered everything off, and we can just I always like to paint in the direction of the wood grain. I think that's helpful, especially as if we got at a macro level, we'd still see some peaks and troughs in the surface. It's not perfectly smooth, so you might get some collections of paint if you went across the grain. At least that's what's in my head, so I tend to always paint with the grain. It's like anything, you know, paint your front door, you paint in the direction of the grain, don't you? You can see that's almost touch dry now already, so it's a really quick process. But we've got skylights here coming up, and they've got a lot of glazing, and you know, trying to paint all this once you've got the glazing done is problematic. So we want to just get all this done, and then that'll speed up your build process as well. Take your time, make sure you've got it painted properly. You don't want it to be patchy. We'll probably do second coats because I think that's what we've done with the rest of it. I'm coming back to this after a break of a couple of weeks, so can't always remember exactly what I've done. There you go, but you can see that takes no time at all. So I'm going to carry on doing this, and we'll paint both sides, and I'll come back to you when we've got 2 coats on, and we're ready for cutting these parts out. Once you're happy that you've got a nice even look to your paintwork, I've given this 2 coats now and the paint has dried, you can then remove these centre pieces like so. Just drop them out and then go in with our little flat file just as we've done before and sand the little tab away on the inside. Now, to make sure you don't damage the part, hold it firmly and as close to the tab as you can, and then go in with your file and just file that down. And we'll do the same on the other side. When you're happy that is flat, you can then paint the inside of that, again leaving it on the fret for now. Well, while the paint is drying on the inside of those window frames, we can now have a look at doing the acetate and getting that ready. So I'm just going to cut a section out. There we go, that's going to be easier to sort out. So carefully put the acetate away and we can tape this down like so, and then we can score the parts just like I think we've done before. So I'm just scoring it twice as I don't want to damage the instruction booklet. So that's that one scored, and then we can cut it out on the cutting mat in a moment. Let's do the other one. Okay. Let's get our instructions out of the way, and then we can just cut this out, and we can just follow the score lines now, as long as you don't press too hard, which might cause the knife to slip. There you go, you see, another couple of passes, and your window pane should just come out. Right then, so when you've cut both panes out, we need to get our glue organised, ready for fitting the parts. So let's do that. Okay, we have all our parts here now. I've just cut these out of their fret. A little tip for me is it's very easy to lose acetate, so just sticking it to your workbench with a bit of masking tape helps you find exactly where they are, and you don't lose them, and they don't get stuck onto your sleeve and dropped off somewhere and end up having to make others. So the first thing we want to do is just make sure that the edges of our part are cleaned up where we've just cut it off our fret. Just make sure that those tabs are nice and smooth, because they will look even worse under paint, so they must be good and smooth. There you go. So that's one cleaned up. Just worth going around and checking all the sides. These have two tabs, one where they joined in the middle and one that connected them to the fret. So make sure you've got those. I think I've forgotten that one. Yes, I have. And then we've got this, which I'm guessing is some form of skylight door that sits on top of the roof. There we go. So that's our parts cleaned up. We're going to use super glue for the wood parts and PVA glue for the clear parts. A little tip: if you've got CA glue, super glue, and you find that you're struggling to get the top off, maybe there's a bit of glue got on the thread or something like that, a pair of nut crackers is a very handy tool for releasing your lids, paint lids, all that sort of stuff. I did do a video on it. If you go in the tools stream playlist on my main page, you'll see all sorts of videos about various different tools, and that is one of them. Okay, so that's our CA ready to go. Actually, we don't want to cause an accident. Now let's just get our model into view and test fit where these are going. So these are going on this back area here. Okay, which means that they will overhang a little bit. That's fine. And what we can do is we can put a chamfer on this edge here, because they're being set at an angle. And if we put a chamfer on at this point here, they'll sit flush to the back, and that'll just look a little bit better. It doesn't tell you to do that in the instructions, but if you look at these, there's sort of like a thick end and a thin end, and the thick end goes against the bulkhead wall there, so you put in the chamfer on the thick end, and it only needs a very minor one. So all you're doing is putting your file at a slight angle, so that it's not correct, and just filing off this bottom edge and putting a little angle in, which is what we mean by a chamfer. I don't know if you can see that now, but we have that little chamfer on there. It doesn't matter which side you do it on, because it'll only fit one way ultimately. But pay attention to it, because it'll matter when we put our glazing in. So now you can see how that fits better up against there. We've still got the overhang, so we've not lost anything. Okay, and interestingly, you can see that wood through the hole. I'm just, yeah, it doesn't matter which way around you have it, you're going to see the wood through the hole, which doesn't look brilliant. So let's have a think about that. Okay. Right, so we've got two things that we could do. We could paint the inside of the acetate black, so that you can't see through it, but you can see that it's glass, or you could use a gunmetal or a dark grey or something like that if you wanted. and that will hide that spar. I'm building it as per the kit instructions, so I'm actually going to leave it clear. But if you wanted to hide the fact that when you look through the transparency you'll see the edge of this, then that's definitely the way to go. Just paint the inside of it before you glue it in. Okay, so we will be able to put the transparency in from underneath, but that's, if you're not confident about doing that, then put the transparency on first. But you can see how we can get in with a pair of tweezers and glue that in from the underside if we wanted. I think that's what I'm going to do, because I want to make sure the wood sits down properly. Yeah. Okay, so that means we're going to glue the parts in first. So let's do that. Small amount of CA. And we're just going to apply a little bit of glue to the two mating edges, not the bulkhead at the back. It won't be necessary, and you risk making something look a bit untidy with glue. There we go, that's in. So we need to glue our transparencies onto the back before we go too far forward. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to, you can't do it the other way around and glue the transparencies in afterwards, because the part won't sit properly, and because of the fit of them, you won't get the transparency in properly. So I'm just holding these with some self-locking tweezers. If you haven't got self-locking tweezers, just use ordinary tweezers and keep them in your hand, or put a peg on them to hold them closed. That works as well. And we're going to put a little bit of clear glue here. We need to have enough to hold it, but not so much that it oozes everywhere. So we don't want great big large globs of it. There we go. So I think that's probably enough, and then let's get our first transparency. We can place that on top like that, and actually my tweezers are getting in the way there, so there we go. That's on. So we'll just leave that to dry for a moment. I'll do the other one off camera and then I'll come back to you in a moment. So we can now glue into place this sliding roof section. I'm guessing it was sliding. Now, it's not very clear on the instructions exactly where that goes. It just seems to go on the top, so you don't know whether it's flush with the top edge or sits back a bit. And when you look at the plans, there's no particular reference to it that I can find. In fact, it appears to be omitted off the plans totally, so you can place this where you think best. So I'm going to place it just stepped back a little bit in the center is my plan. So we're going to get a little bit of medium CA and put just a small amount in the middle. It doesn't need much to hold it. You're not going to be messing and playing with it, so it really doesn't matter. And we'll get it centered and then just step it back a little bit. As always, these things are much more difficult to do on camera than in real life, because I'm trying to show you, which means I've not got the best angle. There we go. If you don't put glue near the edges, it means that you can manipulate it and you're not leaving glue residue behind. So there you go, that's that on. And now we can put some medium CA on our 2 connection points here. We don't need to put it on the back bulkhead. Make sure we've got our chamfer at the back, and then we can plop our part in like so. And then we'll do the same on the other side. There we go, so that is on. Now we're going to let that dry, and then what we can do is go in with our paint and touch it up. So let's just have a look at that. So with the glue dry and happy that everything is set nice and is where we want it, we can now go in with a bit more paint and just glue around some of these edges that we've not painted yet, making sure that you give it the same number of coats of paint that you've done previously, so it's all tied in. Don't worry if you get paint on anything you've already painted, it's just going to sink in anyway. It's not going to make a huge difference. So I'll carry on getting this painted, give it a couple of coats, and then we're ready for our next step. So the last thing the instructions are asking us to do is to give it a layer of transparent clear varnish. You can use satin or you can use gloss. I prefer to use gloss. I think it makes the model stand out better, particularly on something like a yacht. It's likely that it would have been a gloss varnish used on the actual thing, but you can use satin if you prefer. I wouldn't recommend using a matte. I think it'll give it the wrong look. Doesn't really matter which gloss varnish you use, so if you've got one in stock, then go ahead and do that. You may find if it's a very thin varnish that you need several coats because it sinks into the wood and goes slightly matter than if you're applying it on, say, a plastic model. So I like to use this on wooden models. This is Humbrol Gloss Coat, and it's quite thick and easy to brush, and I think it's a nice varnish. So we're just going to decant a small amount. There we go, we don't need much. And always wipe clean your thread there. Just stops the lid gluing itself on. Right, so 2 brushes are going to be needed for this. You're going to need a very fine brush for getting into some of these little narrow pieces, and a wider brush so you can put the gloss down fairly evenly and quickly. You don't need to worry about getting inside the frames or anything like that. It's not really going to be visible, so we're just doing the top surfaces here. And we're going to start with our wide brush and just start putting it down on the areas that is nice and easy to get to. Just looking for my, here we go, I'm going to use my self-locking tweezers again. You can hold this underneath where we've got one of those bulkheads, and that gives you a nice little mount for holding it. So I'm going to start at the bottom here, and it's easy to see where you've done because it's nice and shiny and looks wet, and you just need to make sure you've covered it, that's all. That'll be sufficient. And just carefully go along It's not too difficult to do near the windows because they're quite deeply recessed in, I should say. But don't go around that area with your big brush. Save that for your small brush. So go around the back here, and again, it doesn't matter too much whether you're following the grain or not. What matters is that you've given it a nice even coverage. You've not got any drips or runs. You're spreading it out, so you've got a sort of a nice thin layer. You might as well go into everywhere. So even though these are behind the windows, do it. It protects it from any scuffs and scratches. Not that it's likely that there will be any in that area, but it's just good practice. I'm going to do that end piece there. So that even though that gets countersunk in, it's going to protect it from getting any scratches when you're test fitting and things. Right. We can use the wide brush for doing these edges because we've got nothing that we're going to worry about coming into contact with. And we can do those edges there. And then we need to get it right inside here. If your model's been sat around for a week or two before you've got to this bit, then just give it a dust, a little puffer brush or something like that. So I'm not getting too close to those windows. We'll do that with the little brush in a minute, but we can do those ends there, and then we can come back and do this big top area as well. Now the general rule is the more layers that you put on, the more glossy it's going to look. So when you've done it and it's dried, if you think you want it to be more shiny, just put another coat on, and you'll find that probably will do the trick for you. There you go. So I think that is pretty much everything we can do now with the wide brush. So we'll just go in with the small brush there, and we can get in nice and close then to the windows. And if you work in a methodic way from one end to the other, you'll see anything that you've missed, and you can just patch that in with your small brush as you go. So we've got above the windows there. Don't forget to do the frame of the skylight that we've just put in. And just check every angle, make sure you've not missed anywhere. And then that is your deck house done. So I'm going to carry on doing this off camera, and then I'll come back to you in a moment when we close this episode out. Well, that completes the assembly of our deck house, and we can now plop that into place. We're not been instructed to glue it in yet, so we'll just leave it loose for now. And that also completes this episode. So, yeah, next week we will be looking at the central skylight, which is this piece here. And until then, you enjoy your modelling, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and if so, please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe so you don't miss any more episodes, and you can also hit super thanks or hit PayPal if you want. Any funds go straight back into the channel so we can buy more kits to review and build. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye for now. Hi, and thanks for watching. You can support the channel by hitting the like button, and if you haven't subscribed, please consider the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you don't miss any content that I put out. Model Kit Stuff is a self-funded channel, and I don't do membership or Patreon or buy me a coffee. So if you'd like to further donate to the channel and ensure the cameras keep rolling and the content keeps coming, then you can consider making a donation through my PayPal.
You will find a link to that in the text below. You enjoy your modelling, and I'll see you soon.